All right, welcome to another tier ranking show. I did these every Monday last year, including through the playoffs. I'll be doing it again this year. Always a fun show. On a bit of a side note, yes, I am including basically the whole list in the thumbnail. Sorry about that. I know not everyone likes that because it kind of spoiled a list, but ultimately I tried covering it last year, and just like the numbers were nowhere near as good. The views weren't as good, so I think people see the list and they want to click and see why. So sorry about that. Just if you're a regular, maybe try and figure out a way to click it without paying too close attention to the thumbnail. But yeah. Anyways, let's get into the tier rankings. Let's start off with the Tennessee Titans, which that's what we always do here, just because that's how they happen to be on this list. Listen, I did not think Cam Ward played as bad as the numbers would suggest. I thought their defense looked a lot better than maybe I was expecting in year one. Some drop passes. Ward still did look like a rookie at times, too many sacks, all of that stuff. Not a great situation for him. I was disappointed. Granted, you're playing the Denver Broncos defense, so maybe that was a part of it. But I put them in scrappy last week. I'm willing to keep them there at least for one more week. They did play a very good team, tough. Their defense looked very good, but we'll see how it goes from there. Miami Dolphins, they're bad. I mean, what in the world was this, right? I already uploaded a film study on the Tua situation and what went wrong. That was a rough day at the office. So much bad football. I still feel like there is talent here, but who cares if you can't play well? So yeah, that's where I'm going to put them. The Jets are the next team on the list. Who last. I did one of these tier rankings entering the season. I had them as scrappy instead of bad. I think a lot of people would have put them in the bad tier, and I felt good about that decision because they did look scrappy, and quite frankly, they look maybe even a little better than scrappy. I don't know if I can put them in the maybe playoffs tier just yet, but I'll keep them in scrappy. They're a high scrappy at this point, is how I'm viewing them. Then we had the Cincinnati Bengals, which I've been kind of out on the Bengals for a bit. I do think there is, obviously, there's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, so you can't fully count this team out, although they didn't do a lot against Cleveland. The offensive line can't protect, especially against Myles Garrett, all that stuff. But yeah, this was, it was a win. They won the game better than most week ones. I'll still put them in maybe playoffs. Last week I had them I created a tier that was leaning playoffs, and I also had a solid tier. I've scrapped both of those and just added maybe playoffs. Maybe playoffs feels fair. They still do have great offensive pieces, but they're definitely closer to scrappy than feels like playoffs in my mind. The Cleveland Browns, why not? Let's be generous here. Let's throw them in the scrappy tier for their week one performance. They're probably going to fall into bad, I would assume, before too long. But you know what? They ran the ball effectively enough. The issue was offensively, they just it felt like to convert long drives, they just needed an explosive for them was 7 yards. They just weren't getting these big chunk plays. They have some good players, but not the explosive players really. Defense did play well though, and that's what you were hoping for if you're a Browns fan who was hoping for your team to do well this year. Not sure how well that'll go, but that did happen. Just obviously got to make your field goals. That's what it comes down to. But yeah, solid performance there. And then the Jaguars, I can't fully tell how much of this is just Panthers bad versus them being good. It's one of those things where when you beat a team by so much, everyone just starts talking about how bad the team lost instead of how good the team won. But defense looked very good. Yes, it's the Bryce Young Panthers. We'll get to it. Defense looked very good though. Offense I thought played solid, looked very competent out there. So yeah, I'll put them in maybe playoffs. I think this was a good week. So that's kind of, they were in the solid tier entering the season. Yeah, maybe playoffs feels fair. The Detroit Lions, who I had all the way up in dark horse when I started this year, I can't keep them in dark horse. Obviously, you lose a game like that, you can't be in the second best tier. I don't even think I'm looking at them, I'm not thinking feels like playoffs right now. I'm thinking maybe playoffs. That's how bad this loss was for me. Listen, they won, 15 games last year? The idea of them going from 15 games to missing the playoffs, even with losing coordinators. Nick Sirianni famously lost all his coordinators with the Eagles. They didn't miss the playoffs, right? They made the playoffs as the 5 seed and then got knocked out of the first round. But still, like, they didn't look good. They didn't look good against a good Packers team. We'll get to it, but yeah. The Vikings, I should have already put these two teams on the board. Vikings don't play. I'll put both of them and the Bears in the maybe playoffs tier. That's kind of, I had them in a solid tier entering the season, so just gonna keep them there. If you want to hear my thoughts more elaborate on those, check out last week's show. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I had them in dark horse. I'll keep them in dark horse. Again, I'm a Tampa Bay fan, so it might just, if you couldn't tell by my shirt, it might just be a little bit of a bias going in, but I don't think so totally. Well, I wanted a little bit more from their defense. Keep in mind, this is the Buccaneers team without Tristan Wirfs, without Chris Godwin. Those are two star players. Again, an all-pro at left tackle, also an all-pro at right tackle, but he'll play left tackle and is an all-pro there. Chris Godwin, when we last saw him, he was having a career year. Like, that's another number one caliber receiver. Emeka Egbuka looked awesome. Baker did not have a great day. He just didn't, but he had some really clutch scrambles throughout the game and a great final drive. Regardless of what you want to say about him during the first 58 minutes, he was perfect in that final 2 minutes. So, yeah. And I don't, he's always been a bit of a hot and cold player. He's going to have his lower games and his better games, but even in his lower games, he can come through at the end if you need him to. So, yeah. No reason to dock them there. Obviously, not enough reason to put them up a tier either. 49ers, I had them in feels like playoffs entering this week. I guess I can't dock them down from that. I'll keep them here. They are kind of a low feels like playoffs for me as of right now. I wanted to see more from their offense. Granted, no Brandon Ayuk, similar to Tampa Bay, right? Where it's like they had some injuries. Kittle goes down in this game. It was weird because Brock Purdy did not play well, again, similar to Tampa Bay. Their quarterback not having a great game, but then comes through at the end. And, yes, that final play was just a jump ball, but like he had some good throws to get them to that spot. That Ricky Pershall throw, like I did think Tariq Woolen took a bit of a weird angle on it, but it was still a good throw, and maybe Woolen was surprised by Purdy, being able to get it down the field there. Either way, there's some good stuff. The defense played fantastic. And again, defense matters in the NFL. And when the defense can put together a performance like that, your offense doesn't have to be perfect. And I do think their offense will get better as the season progresses. Atlanta. I was impressed with Atlanta. I'm going to put them in maybe playoffs, which is right around where I had them entering the year. But yeah, I thought they played well. I mean, the trenches looked better than maybe you would have thought with an injury on the offensive line and with, a lot of young players in that defensive front seven, but it looked very good. Secondary played well. Those are the things you want for Atlanta. Michael Penix made some nice throws, obviously the missed field goal stings and they weren't able to run the ball against Tampa Bay's good defensive front. It's Vita Vea. What are you going to do? You can try to run the ball. It's only going to work so well. So I thought that they looked good out there. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, Baltimore Ravens. What in the world was that? They were about to be like in a tier of their own. I legitimately think I might have kept them in a tier of their own, with how that game was going. They were up 15 points with 4 minutes left. They end up losing the game to the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to keep them in Super Bowl contenders. I just do think there is enough talent here to, I think that they can make it work, but, it was disappointing, right? And this is a team that just does this, where it just feels like they find ways to lose games sometimes in a way you don't usually see elite-level teams do, right? You see this from, as a Tampa Bay fan, back before the Tom Brady days, that's what they were known for, is finding ways to lose games. Several bad teams do that. Rarely you see a great team find ways to lose games like that. Granted, the talent is still the talent, but at a certain point, it has to show up in the games, in the results, results do matter. We can say process over results all we want. Sometimes they have to, that does have to matter. The Dallas Cowboys, last week I created a new tier because too many were in the solid tier. I figured now that we have a week, that'll change, but I feel like I'm keeping essentially the same thing with the maybe playoffs tier. Do the Cowboys feel like a playoff team right now? No, the defense was still suspect enough, but maybe they're a playoff team. Definitely maybe they're a playoff team. I do think that this is the offense looked fantastic. It just did. So for the Cowboys, who I do think there was a bit of an overreaction to the Micah Parsons trade. Like, they still do have a lot of talent offensively, and even some young players defensively. Like, a lot of guys can't get pressure against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's see him in a little bit more time. And their defense really, stepped up in the, I guess after second halftime, they were able to do well. Ultimately, some drop passes by CeeDee Lamb was the difference. And, the Eagles made mistakes of their own as well. But, I do think that this is a team that has has potential here. But you can't just put them into feels like playoffs team based off of potential. A lot of teams in that tier. The Houston Texans, now, I don't factor in the fact that they're the division, although the Colts played very well as well, but I don't factor that into these tier rankings. I simply just, I put feels like playoffs because I'm like, what does it feel like? What do you feel like a playoff team? Or do you feel like you're maybe a playoff team? The Texans, I mean, this is annoying because I feel like I keep doing this, but I'm just going to put them in the tier that makes sense for now. And if it's a busy tier, it's a busy tier. The Houston Texans feel like maybe playoffs right now. I had them in feels like playoffs entering this week, but they lose and their offense looks completely inept. I think the Rams could have a good defense this year, but how does Nico Collins only get 25 yards in that game? How can you not scheme him open some more plays here? He's such a good player. I don't know. They spread the ball out so much and it wasn't really effective. They did still have a chance to win that game towards the end. Their defense is awesome, but do I feel like, oh yeah, they're a playoff team right now? Not really. You know who I kind of do feel that way about? Is this an overreaction with the Indianapolis Colts saying I feel like a playoff team right now? I had them in the solid tier entering the season because I do think there was, again, an overreaction when they said they were going to go with Daniel Jones. I didn't think it was a horrible idea. I believe I made a video talking about could he be this year's Sam Darnold, so to speak. Not that there's a Sam Darnold every year, but there kind of has been lately. 2 years ago was Baker Mayfield. 3 years ago it was Geno Smith. It does happen where a quarterback gets in the right situation, and all of a sudden being able to run an offense is just a lot more valuable for a decent team than for a bad one. Playing Miami, who looked so bad, but let's give the Colts credit for what they were able to do to Miami as well. So just week one, but let's have some overreactions. Let's have some fun with it. The Rams, had them in dark horse entering the year. Going to keep them in dark horse. They were one of 3 teams in the dark horse. The Lions were the other one. Great performance by the Los Angeles Rams defense. You wanted maybe a little bit more offensively, but Stafford made the plays when he had to, and the Texans defense is very good. So, good stuff there. Next up, we have another Los Angeles team, the Chargers. The Chargers are next on the list, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. All of a sudden, this receiving core with the emergence of Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston having a really good day. He's catching footballs now because that's a problem if he can catch footballs because we know he can get open. The offensive line did not look to miss Rashawn Slater too much. You're going to miss him a little. He's Rashawn Slater, but they still were blocking well. The defense, they played pretty well. I mean, Mahomes was Mahomes. Only so much you can do. I'm going to put them, I had them entering this as feels like playoffs. I'm going to bump them up a tier. I'm going to put them in dark horse. They're dark horse, the way I view it, is a team that I'm not saying you're definitely going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm I could see it. I think I could see that happening. The Raiders, who I was, I put them into solid tier, but I was kind of reluctantly putting them into solid tier entering the season, but they showed me everything I wanted to see. Would like to see them be able to run the ball a little bit better with Ashton Genty, but also the Patriots were clearly trying to sell out to stop the run. Geno Smith looks as advertised. They have good enough weapons to make that work, and their defense looking better. You know what? Let's be optimistic with them as well. Feels like playoffs. Why not for the Las Vegas Raiders? Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, but I don't know. It was a fun week. The Commanders, I put them in feels like playoffs entering the season. I'm going to bump them up a tier to dark horse with their good defensive performance. Yes, it's just the Giants. That was a rough offensive day for the Giants, but give credit to the defense that made it happen. If they have a defense, this is definitely a team that could be even Super Bowl contenders. The Kansas City Chiefs, who, listen, the Chiefs had this, not a good week. Not a good week at all. They lost. That's never good. Patrick Mahomes, was awesome. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was making a ton of plays, just doing whatever he could to keep his team in it. He can still put on the Superman cape, right? but they lost. And they lost because they can't block, because they weren't getting open. When they were getting open, they were dropping passes, and their defense looked horrendous. And this is not a team that we've seen have a horrendous defense in several years. So I can't keep them in championship contender or Super Bowl contenders right now. Could they still win it? Absolutely. That's why they're in a dark horse tier. But I think this is a tough loss, and I don't love this roster around Mahomes. I still think Mahomes is the best player in the world, but there's talent. There's a talent difference between that supporting cast and the supporting cast of a few other teams that we'll get to. How about the Saints? Saints did not look as bad as maybe we thought they would look at during week 1, which again, I think we forget. These are NFL teams. You're not going to lose by 20 points every game. They were able to keep things competitive, ultimately not get the victory. But you know what? Hey, competitive week 1. I'll keep you out of the bad tier. Let's keep the really bad teams, the really bad performances in the bad tier. And speaking of bad performances, the New York Football Giants, yeah, you're going in the bad tier. I mean, that was a inept offensive performance against a defense that, yes, played well, but also was not a great defense last season, right? I don't know. That was rough. We're already getting Jackson Dart, when will he start stuff, which we knew would happen at some point. I think that Russell Wilson was probably hoping it would happen later than week 1, but what a mess that was. Next up, the Eagles, who play the Chiefs next week. That should be a very fun game. Listen, I think I would have expected their receiving core to get more separation in that game against Dallas's secondary, but Dallas does actually have players in the secondary, inconsistent players, but players. The Cowboys were figured out how to stop the run towards the end of that game, but Jalen Hurts was able to put on a Superman cape, right, and make some really good plays. I was really impressed with Hurts. The defense wasn't what you wanted. A lot of new starters. I will say this: last week they had a rough week 1 in the Sao Paulo game. Were eventually able to figure it out. I'm going to trust Vic Fangio that, these things get better as the season goes along. Bill Belichick defenses were always that way, starting slow and getting better. So they're still Super Bowl contenders. Of course, they're still Super Bowl contenders. Reigning champs win week 1. Very rarely, unless there's a big injury, is that going to knock you out of Super Bowl contenders. Maybe the Rams that one year when they, after week 1, got crushed by the Bills in the opener. I don't know. But they lost, right? So, if you win, you're probably going to be in this tier. The Steelers, how about the Pittsburgh Steelers? I put them in the leaning playoffs tier, which was kind of half of what the maybe playoffs tier is this week. Definitely got to bump them up a tier to feels like playoffs because the Aaron Rodgers thing seemingly worked. And listen, I watched every game Aaron Rodgers played last year, and he was better than people make him out to be. He was a totally competent quarterback, very good at running the offense. He still can't move around much and doesn't give you a ton if a play breaks down, but he can do some nice things. Did have a couple of drop picks in there. Again, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, makes it look better than perhaps it was, but it was still a very competent, solid performance. And also, hey, the Steelers offense working well. It doesn't need a quarterback to put on a Superman cape. That's good, right? Rough defensive performance, and you have to hope that that's just a fluke if you're saying the Steelers are a playoff team, but I had them as a wildcard team entering the season. That I still feel that way. The Denver Broncos, who I also felt like, I think I'm still going to put them in feels like playoffs. I had them in that heading into the year. Their defense looked as advertised. We thought it'd be maybe the best defense in football. It looked fantastic against a rookie quarterback making his debut, but still looked fantastic. Bo Nix just has to clean some of that stuff up. Bad Bo Nix game. Hopefully he can get back on track. We saw enough sample size of him playing good last year. I'm willing to write it off as a bad game, but little concerning. But yeah, still feels like playoffs to me. The Green Bay Packers, probably my biggest miss entering this season. So I did have them in the leaning playoffs tier. So again, top half of maybe playoffs tier, adjusted for the changes this week. But some people were saying this team could be a dark horse Super Bowl contender. And in fairness, I didn't know about the Micah Parsons trade, but I was still I don't know. Are they really that? Is that really Jordan Love's inconsistent. The defense, on paper looks good, but how good will it really be once we see it in action? That was a mess. So they're easily at least a dark horse. Do I consider putting them up into Super Bowl contenders? Sure. Let's do that. Second NFC team in the Super Bowl contenders tier. I do feel I feel if they're playing the Rams or the Buccaneers or, the some of these other teams, I'm like, yeah, I think the Packers are probably going to be favored to win that game. Like, this defense looked awesome. And even, with Jordan Love's inconsistencies, with the, he put the ball in harm's way a couple times in the game, he also gives you the positives. He gave you a ton of positives in that first half. And Matt LaFleur's going to scheme stuff up. So, like, this is exactly what you want to see out of Jordan Love. And if he's giving you what you want to see, like, why isn't this a Super Bowl contender? So, okay, let's go with that for now. They're definitely maybe on a low-end Super Bowl contender. I don't think they'll complain about that too much. The Panthers, oh my God. Bryce Young, I spent all offseason defending you, and this is what you do to me. I mean, come on. I'm a Bryce Young believer. I really do think he did a lot of really good stuff. I've seen there's now revisionist history of, he was okay in like 3 games. No, he was legitimately good for a solid chunk of last season. I know the numbers don't show that, but if you watch the tape, he did a lot of really good stuff. Quite frankly, he still had some good plays in this football game. He was able to do some nice things. He made some splash plays, but then there was also just he was trying to do too much or made some mistakes because essentially, like, the way the Chiefs viewed Mahomes in week 1 of like, hey, this isn't going well. Can you just like figure this out for us? And he's like, yeah, let's see what we can do. That's how the Panthers were treating Bryce Young. And it's like, why are you treating this guy this way? I think, again, we're just seeing Justin Fields play well, Daniel Jones play well. It's a perfect examples of like a guy in a bad situation. Don't crush him too much. If you have seen the positives, we have seen positives from Bryce Young, but yeah, and then there's these negatives. The situation looks worse than last year. Ted McMillan does look good, but again, he's like the whole offense other than Bryce Young now. So yeah, what a disappointment. Week 1, I thought they might be decent. Cardinals again weren't fantastic. I think maybe playoffs feels fair for them. Like playing the Saints, who are not a bad or who I didn't put them in a bad tier, but they're still not a team that is expected to do much this season. But they did get the win, and winning in football is hard. And they were the better team, too. They had a couple opportunities to, step on the gas pedal a little and weren't quite able to do it. And I think that's what allowed the Saints back in it. But, they still were good. They have a really cupcake schedule this season. So they play Carolina next week. So, have a chance to, again, try and, iron out the kinks there a little bit as things go along. The Bills, Bills are like what? Like maybe playoffs here? No, obviously Super Bowl contenders for the Buffalo Bills, who, I don't know what the takes would have been had they not been able to pull off that. I think I still would have put them in Super Bowl contenders because Josh Allen and the Bills offense was playing great all game. They couldn't get stops against Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens offense. And then Henry fumbles, and it was a good play by Ed Oliver to force the fumble. They get the fumble, they recover, then they don't get the 2-point conversion, but the defense gets another stop, and they're able to march down the field and kick the field goal to win it. When you have someone like Josh Allen who can do that, the sky is the limit. They do have other pieces. They need to get some of their corners healthy. Like that, Maxwell Harrison has to be healthy if this team is going to be able to get some key stops in a playoff game, you would assume. But like maybe they don't need key stops in a playoff game. Maybe it'll just win 50-48. I don't know. Incredible stuff by Josh Allen and the Bills. The Seattle Seahawks, who, defense did look really good. It did. Sam Darnold was competent out there, but I think you wanted more from him. They don't have any other weapons. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba had 124 of like their 150 passing yards. Like that's ridiculous. Like if a guy has 124 yards, your quarterback should be having at least 160 passing yards, right? He was doing it all on his own. It felt like the Cooper Kupp thing through 1 week hasn't maybe gotten what you were hoping for Seattle. Defense still looks very good, though, and there still is some pieces offensively. So maybe playoffs, but for now, yeah, that's where we're going to have you. And then the Patriots, who I put in the, I believe I put them in the solid tier. No, I put them in the scrappy tier entering the year, and that's where I have to keep them. Front seven looked good. Give them credit for that. Drake May had his ups and downs. It felt like in this game, not a horrible performance, and maybe I'm maybe it's kind of questionable if they're a scrappy team. Why did the Raiders jump up so high? But come on, gotta have some fun here on the tier list. But yeah, the Patriots, they definitely have some room for improvement, we will say, after week 1. So yeah, I think again I'm gonna have to find another tier for this. I don't know. These teams feel like they're all kind of in the same tier. Like I could break it up, but like that feels like the right tier. Maybe I just have to have a big tier for the first few weeks. I'm sure eventually it'll figure itself out. But yeah, for now, this is where I have these teams. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.